Okay, I want to go into the next principle in chord changing that's going to make your chord changes easier and work on your technique a little bit. Remember, we're building the foundation here, and like I mentioned in previous modules, once you get a lot of these basic open chord position changes down, they're in your pocket forever. Forever. And like for instance, we're going to work on E major to A minor. Once you have that change down, any piece of music you look at, and that's a common change, that is E to A minor, you're going to be able to play it. Right? So these open position chord changes that we're working on, you know, the G to E minor, which you should have down now, the C to A minor, the G to C add 9, you're going to see these over and over and over and over again in songs, and you'll be able to play them, right? So that's why we got to kind of practice them, get them down, and then they're in your pocket forever. And any piece of music, they're like butter after a while. They're just on autopilot, okay? So the next principle I want to explain to you is the principle, what I call clustering, okay? And by the way, these terminology I'm giving you, like shared fingers, clustering, these are things that we've come up with at the next level of guitar.com. If you go home, if you do a Google search for clustering, I don't know what's going to come up. Maybe some weird astrophysical kind of planet thing or something, right? But probably nothing in guitar unless my ebook or something or whatever comes up. But these are things that I call it so I can communicate better, and these are techniques that are proven that we have found that work. Okay? So by clustering, what I mean is this, and I'm going to give you a tight shot of this in a second so you can really see. Clustering meaning leave your hand in the same cluster, or the same, when you play a chord, it's called a voicing. When you voice a chord, that means the way that you put your fingers down on the fretboard, and that cluster that they're in, or the way that they're shaped. If you can leave them together, or 3 of them together, or 2 of them together, leave them together instead of taking it apart just to put it back together again. I call that clustering. And I'm going to show you how easy it is. It's going to make your life so much easier making chord changes, because that's what we're all about here. We want to make it easy and fun, right? So the change I want you to work on now is E major to A minor. Remember, when I say E, or when you hear E, when there's nothing next to the name of any chord, if it's just a letter, that means major is implied. Like E, that's E major. D, D major. C, C major. The little M means minor. CM, C minor. CM7, C minor 7th. Okay? But just the chord name. So if I say E, or if someone says E, that's a major chord. That's implied. Okay? So I'm going to give you a tight shot in a second, but I want to show you at this range. Again, technique on this E chord. Wrist is down, fingers cupped. Okay? I'm up on my fingertips. E major. All 6 strings ring nicely. Okay? Now, when I go to A minor, I'm just going to drop. I just dropped each finger 1 string and made that change. I didn't do this. And again, I'm going to give you a tight shot of this in a second. I didn't play E major, take my whole hand apart, and then put it together to play A minor. That's what a lot of students do in other methods, and that's incorrect. Why take your whole hand apart and make it hard like that? Why go E major? Take your hand off the fretboard, off the strings, just to put it back in the same cluster, because if you study the sheets with the chords on it, the E major, as you know from practice, it looks exactly like the A minor, except everything is down one string, right? So E major to A minor. The only difference is on A minor, we don't play the low E string. Very soon I'm going to show you how to mute those strings out, so you're not going to be playing them. Here's our E major chord, right? Okay, now I'm going to pull my pinky out of the way just to show you the chord, but remember, the pinky stays tucked tight against the 3rd finger. When I'm showing you stuff up close, I pull it out of there just to give you a better view, but don't you do that. Your pinky stays up like this at all times. Remember, the pinky is hitching a ride on that 3rd finger. When you're on E, when you're on C, when you're on D, whatever. When you're on A minor, that pinky stays attached. Okay? C. See how that pinky is? Attached to that 3rd finger there. Okay, so check out the E chord. Let me pull my pinky away so you can see it. Now, here's our E chord. When I go to A minor, watch what I do. I'm trying to give you the best shot possible of this. There we go. Now watch what I do. Did you catch that? All I'm doing is sliding down. See, I'm just moving everything, this whole cluster. I'm keeping my fingers in the same shape, the same voice, the same cluster, and just dropping everyone down one string. You don't want to get in the habit of doing this. Let's say your pinky's attached and you do this. E. Okay, now A minor. A minor. There. Incorrect. Why take your hand apart, futz around just to put it back in that same cluster? Let me show you that again. E. A minor. Give you a little different view of it. E. A minor. Okay, so I want you to practice that with quarter note to get good. First, do the mechanics of the change. Remember the mechanics of the change, meaning you do the change dry or just with one strum just to get used to that motion. So, E, A minor, E, A minor, back and forth till you get that down. Then, try it with a quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. E, down, down, down. A minor. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then when you get good at that, try it with an eighth note strum pattern. Strum 1 or strum 2. Lately, we've been mainly working on strum 2. So here it is with strum 2, but slow. See the cluster? Down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up. See my hand? It's just moving up, sliding on the strings. Play along with me if you can. Down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down. 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, just work on these changes and you'll have them down, and then they're in your pocket forever. Any song, E to A minor, you're going to be able to play. So again, like I always say, you don't want to be able to slide a credit card in between your fingers. Your fingers, pretend they're like magnetically attracted to the strings where they're not, they're constantly being pulled to them. Just to show you what I'm doing here, see, I'm playing this E chord. Now watch when I go to A minor. See, I can't get this credit card in here because I'm not doing this. See, the minute I do that, you're wasting time and you're not going to make the change in time. So when I drop down, literally, I cannot slip a credit card. How about up this way? See, I can't get it in there when I change because I'm sliding. My fingers are always attached almost to that string. So I want you to work on that principle called clustering, and I'm going to give you a couple other changes now because you're going to have this down so fast. You're going to be like, this is easy. I can do this. Anybody can do it. Right? Again, notice the pinky position. Notice my fingers are cupped. See how they're cupped? They're not flat like this hitting these other strings. They're cupped and I'm on my fingertips. That's critical. Okay? That's our good technique. Okay? And our wrist is down. Soon we're going to bring our thumb over because I know what you're saying. You're saying, how can I hit an A minor chord and not play the low E string or C? And I know. We're going to get to that. I just wanted to get the technique down. We're going to work soon in the coming lesson on getting our thumb over the top to mute it. Okay? Let me give you, as long as I got the camera up tight, another cluster change. Okay? D. You all know how to play a D major chord. Okay? To A. Notice again. Notice my hand stays pretty much attached to those strings. Very little movement. D to A. See, I'm practicing the mechanics of that change. You're not going to do this. D. Take your whole hand apart off the fretboard to find what an A chord and an A. No. It's very much just cluster your fingers together. Take, again, I'm going to pull my pinky out of the way. You see, picture in your mind what an A chord looks like. An A chord has your three fingers together. So they're almost together here. Do you see? They're almost in like that same kind of configuration. I'll do it in slow motion. See, I just kind of cluster them, and bang, I'm right there on that change. D to A is a very common change. So I want you to practice this 10 minutes with your rest of your chord changes. D, A, D, A. Check out this cluster. E minor, which you know, here's a good shot of an E minor chord. All 6 strings. Again, look at that pinky and third finger. Good technique. To D. Now when I go E minor to D, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go from E minor straight down and slide into that D. See, because these 2 fingers, if we just look at these 2 that are on the E minor chord, they have to kind of slide down. They're staying, both these fingers are staying on this 2nd fret here. See, they just got to separate a little bit because they're going to go on the high E and the G strings, right? But I'm not going to take them off and off the fretboard like that, right? Here's another view. They're just going to slide down. I'm keeping them in this cluster, what we call here, clustering. See that? And then you just add that 3rd finger. And this is, see, now that's total mechanics of the change. No strumming whatsoever. E minor, D. Easy. E minor, D. There's 3 clusters I want you to work on next. Okay? So, practice D. Quarter note to A. It's another shot. D. A. Okay? And then you could practice it with an 8th note. Strum 2. Strum slow. Remember, slow and in time. Always better than fast and sloppy. D, A. Now E minor to D. E minor, D. Cluster. E minor, D. E minor, D. I want you to work on those clusters. Remember, again, with the left hand, so critical to have this good technique. That's why we're spending a lot of time on this, but I want you using the proper technique. So you're going to hear me keep saying a lot of the same things. There's David again. He's talking about keeping that wrist down. I'm doing it for a reason. Believe me, you're going to thank me later. Okay? So I want you to practice the changes that we've talked about earlier on the shared fingers. I want you to practice these changes that would now on the clustering. Your 8 chords we've been working on should sound pretty good by this time. Yeah, you should have strum 2 down by this time and working on strum 1. You see, it's all a process. And now we're going to work on some string muting. I'll see you in the next module.